We are at the final episode of this session of Poker Time. Grant, you may remember the way we ended last episode was pretty dramatic. The Terminator made a huge bluff against Wonka's pocket queens. It did not work. Terminator had 5-3 offsuit.
He had 5 high with no way to improve,
Yep.
except for pairing, and that was going to still lose him the pot. So Wonka did eventually make the call and won a huge pot.
Yep, they got it in on the turn. All right, so Matt's going to open the Jack-10 suited. Very pretty hand. Kind of hard to turn this baby down.
And did you notice that Aaron called before Batiste called?
Well, you know, he's got the
7-5.
The 7 and the 5.
Yeah.
So, and they're both black, so that's sweet.
That's pretty good. Jonathan did say this is the final episode of this session of Poker Time. That does not mean it's the final episode of Poker Time. There will be future sessions.
Yeah. Batiste checks. Actually, of course checks. And will Matt continue here? He does have a gutter and a backdoor flush draw. He does continue.
I don't know if he's got enough fold equity, especially when Aaron and Randy are in here, to justify this bet.
I think it's questionable as well.
Looks like the Terminator's going to raise his flush draw here.
I don't hate that. You know, we got 6 high as the Terminator. At the same point, Matt's really supposed to have something.
Well, look at this. We get Batiste to fold the ace right away. That's a good result.
And I don't know how Matt's supposed to call with the hand that he actually has either. I'll tell you what. I mean, what can Matt really call with? Ace-queen?
He can call with a lot of his aces if he doesn't believe the Terminator.
Sure.
Which he probably shouldn't because it's Randy, and he raises a lot. He doesn't always have it.
But he doesn't raise that often 4 ways, actually.
No, he doesn't. And what he's repping there is 2-pair or better, essentially, but of course he has plenty of draws in his range as well.
He can have ace-9, he can have king-9, he can have 9-9. All those hands very easily.
Yeah.
And he really can have king-9 off.
Oh, yeah, he absolutely can.
So, yeah, and, you know, being out of position with a nice sized raise, I think Matt does just have to throw it away. Great outcome for the Terminator there.
He terminates another pot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah. He's got another nice-looking hand here.
Yeah, that's...
Not that 6 deuces was a nice-looking hand.
Put that hand on the cover of Sports Illustrated, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Oh. And Action Aaron with the 4 deuce call.
Digital Dan with a good hand in the big blind, or at least reasonable hand.
Tim, of course, with the pocket 7s, totally reasonable as well.
That is a flop that Dan likes to see.
Yeah, that is super strong. Let's see if the Terminator decides to bet his gut shot and backdoor.
He's doing it just like Matt did.
Yeah.
Just like Matt did in the last
Sizing is tiny. 25 into 90.
Do you think that's transparent?
He laughs at everyone.
I don't know if it's transparent or not, but I know Digital Dan's always raising with his hand.
Do you see how quickly the Terminator just called? And I know he wants to... Do you think that's indicative of a draw when people call that quickly?
I think it's often indicative of a draw, right? Like,
look at this card, by the way. Let's take a moment. Digital Dan has made the nuts. The Terminator has the nut flush draw with his gut shot now.
And let's be clear, the royal flush draw. Oh! That is not a royal flush.
That's a disaster.
That is a straight. It's going to be hard not to lose some money here. Digital Dan, gonna bet. That makes sense.
He wasn't like yelling at him. He was just like disappointed.
150.
So should the Terminator raise here? It went check on the turn. Often you're good.
I mean, that means Digital Dan had to raise a 1-pair hand on the flop, like Ace Jack, which we've seen him do stuff like that before.
Yeah, and he may feel like he has to call, actually, with Ace Jack, if we raise. And here comes the raise. This is not an insane raise.
It's a min raise.
Oh, wow. He's trying to get called by Ace Jack.
I mean, and what else? Or Jack 8, if he's really lucky. Dan has Jack 8.
Yes, he could get really lucky and Dan could have Jack 8. As it turns out, Dan's got the second nuts.
And it's not a super comfortable spot to 3-bet for Dan because Ace-Queen did get there, but the Terminator so quickly called and so quickly checked the turn. And Dan is going to put in the 3-bet here.
Look at Terminator just shake his head. He's unhappy about this one. He knows he's in trouble.
I think this is a fold. I don't think he can beat anything that Dan is going to do this with.
Yeah. Terminator just thinks his hand's too good to fold, and
he calls and gets the bad news. I understand why you would call there. It feels like a miracle card. But when the 3-bet comes in once you raise, I don't believe Dan is going to do that with the 1-pip worse hand, Jack 8. I don't think Dan's ever doing that. I think he's just going to call with Jack 8.
I think he's just going to call with King Jack. If I don't know how he ever has King Jack there, but even if he did, he's just going to call with that too. Digital Dan too tight to ever put in a 3-bet on the river, I think, as a bluff. We just aren't going to see that almost ever.
And I see we're getting a great price as Randy when Dan 3-bets there, but still, I just think we're winning approximately 0% of the time.
Right. And I know some of you game theory folks out there are going to say, you know, it's completely exploitable to fold there if you always fold there. And that's true, it's exploitable, but the guy has to be exploiting you, otherwise you're exploiting them, right? And
Right,
so,
like what is... Dan's not doing that as a bluff, right? Is he turning one pair into a bluff? He's saying, I'm going to rep a full house because I have a full house blocker. I don't see that happening.
Right, and I really hope you have a straight and
Yeah.
fold it. That seems like a bad idea. As you can see why, right? Because Randy called pretty quickly with his straight. So, yeah, I agree. I think in the end that's a fold.
Even though we're talking about it like it's an easy fold, it's not.
Of course not,
It's a
no.
massive cooler.
You hate your life as soon as you get 3-bet.
And he's going to try to win the chips back right away with the ace-4 off under the gun. Wonka will not be folding the 9s.
Wonka's just going to call, though, and not 3-bet.
I wouldn't hate isolating Randy after Randy loses a big pot in this spot.
I was thinking that, too. But Wonka's going to play it a little softer, a little more careful.
Aaron is obviously going to play this hand.
Well, yeah, it's a 10 and a 3. They're
He's
both
got the
red.
button.
It's a 3 of diamonds. So that's pretty good. He's got the nut low diamonds right now. Right?
What about the deuce of diamonds?
Yeah. Well, no, he's got what's currently.
Oh.
Also, he's currently the nut high hearts. So, and look at that. He flops a 10.
Terminator flops best, obviously, with the ace-4.
Expecting to continue. Continue small again.
All
Really,
right.
really small.
So it's not as transparent as maybe I thought it was when he had the king high.
Yeah. So Wonka, knowing he's going to get called when he 3-bets, decides instead of 3-betting to just call, and then he can get away super cheap. It's an interesting...
This is interesting that Terminator is betting again here.
Yeah.
But look, he knows his
Look at
customer
this.
too. He knows Aaron is going to call with any piece, but Aaron could have him beat at this point. Obviously,
Yes.
he doesn't. He has 10-3.
Surely it's going to go check.
All right,
now.
a lot of aces are chops now.
And here's another bet. He fires again. And, a
Aaron
quick
calls.
call. Wow.
Aaron just thinks that Randy is steaming, I think, from the
Yeah.
last hand. That must be why he took that line.
And Aaron shows the
the
3.
3.
And everyone's realizing it can't be ace-3.
I love the show of the 3 instead of the 10. That's pretty cool.
Although maybe people are thinking Aaron just misread the board and thinks he's folding, you know, an ace with the worst kicker or something like that. That would be funny.
Yeah.
But not the case. Wow. I can't believe Randy went for value on the river, and I can't believe he got it so quickly.
He raised under the gun with ace-4, and then he got 3 streets of value on a run out that you should never get 3 streets of value on.
He was betting small the entire time relative to the size of the pot. Maybe that made it easier.
Made a little bit of that digital Dan money back.
Maybe Aaron also thought the sizing was indicative of hand strength, and it turns out it wasn't.
I mean, Randy's not a bad guy to try to pick off right now. He lost that massive
I
pot to
agree.
Wonka right before this episode started, and then he lost that big pot to Dan at the beginning of this episode.
Agreed completely. Batiste with the limp with the king jack.
Batiste likes to change it up sometimes. He's not much of a limper very often.
No. I don't think Digital Dan's going to throw this one away when Aaron raises, though.
No, I don't think so either.
And
I don't think
Terminator
Terminator's
calls.
going to throw away any hand, but that's a pretty good hand.
these are actually reasonable hands.
Everybody has a reasonable hand right
How
now.
about that? That's so rare in
And
this
they're all
game.
red. I'll take black on the flop.
Wrong again. So,
What color do you think that is?
whatever, buddy. It's like a dark blue. So, Terminator with top pair just bets it right out.
He's going to get
Action
called by
Aaron.
Jack-8 because of some reason. And I understand Dan calling here against these two guys.
For $20, too. I don't see how you can fold on the button there.
That's a good card for Action Aaron. He actually picks up some equity.
Yeah, instead of nothing at all. Is
And he
gonna
can scare
fire?
him now.
I like that he's going to fire here rather than not. If you call that flop, you just feel like you have to bet. Oh, and look at this. Terminator has no interest. Doesn't even consider folding.
Well, neither would I in his spot.
Snap calls,
to
I
be
agree.
clear.
I agree.
And he's going to win unless he folds, which I don't see him folding. I just don't see Randy folding here. I think Aaron is either going to fire pretty big or give up, and I think either way, Randy's going to win the pot.
You think Randy's also maybe tilting still a little bit, right? So he's less inclined to
Right.
fold.
How I said he was a good candidate to pick off, he's also not a good candidate to bluff right now.
Yeah. Looks like Action Aaron is assembling the troops.
That's a small bet, it looks
Just
like.
100, right?
Oh, he bet
oh,
215.
Never mind. Looks like,
There's no interest in folding
Terminator.
here. He's going to call.
well, he's going to give himself a chance to think about it.
All right, so what does Aaron have here? He could have
Exactly.
Miss Spades.
He could have Queen 10.
He could have Queen 10. That would be bad news.
Could have a set of sixes.
a set of sixes, but he might have raised that on the flop.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
You
the
just
call.
have to call. He's not going to be betting ace 10 like this. That's the problem for Action Aaron. So what's he supposed to have? He could have queen high spades, I guess.
The problem for Aaron is that he just called three ways on the flop, so he can't rep anything that flopped super strong. He's repping things that got there on the turn of the river.
Or repping a slow play, but yeah,
And
I hear you.
those are rare.
Yeah, the way the queen isn't really supposed to help unless he has queen 10, or like we said, like queen jack of spades or something.
The Terminator's trying to crawl out of the hole, kind of like he couldn't crawl out of that machine at the end of his first movie.
Yeah, he was so close.
Yeah, he
almost got to her. That hand almost got to her. But I will have you know that he does return in Terminator 2.
Are you sure?
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's not the same Terminator.
Well, obviously.
But yeah, the actor returns as the Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you're
And he
wondering.
becomes the governor of
That's a
California.
bad card.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
I really like that. I think that was Ridley Scott directed that. I think.
Batiste is going to limp again.
What is happening?
Batiste has a new strategy. I guess
Aaron has a new
Aaron's gonna make
strategy
it
too.
$10 for some reason.
Isn't this where the Terminator always makes it 15?
Yeah, I think he does.
Let's see if he does it again. I feel like this is his.
Oh, he's
he's
making it bigger.
Yeah.
But still not big enough to actually get folds.
But at least it's kind of big-ish. I mean, but you're right. Action Aaron's never folding his suited king here.
What does Batiste do once he limps and there's this weird dynamic now?
I like a 3-bet.
It's a 4-bet, in fact.
I like a 4-bet.
He's just going to call. I think his plan is just to try to keep pots small pre-flop and let these guys go nuts and then figure it out post-flop. He believes he has an edge post-flop. That's what Batiste's plan is.
That's fine. I'm not a big fan of it. I feel like ace-8 off, we're going to be out of position to most people, is just tough hand to have to play.
It's not a great hand.
Like we should. I think you should think we could do that, but I think we should be doing it with different kinds of hands. I think
I see what you're saying for sure. Ace-8 suited, maybe.
that's much better.
And looks like Terminator's flop top pair here. Nobody else really flopped anything.
Nope. It's going to be Terminator taking it down unless someone decides to make a move. Batiste says, sayonara to that $40.
People still say sayonara these days?
Well, they do in Japan.
Okay.
I don't know about,
Might have been a breakathon pre-flop.
not in Japan.
People speaking Japanese outside of Japan, perhaps?
I'm not an expert, and I wouldn't want to comment. Feel like I'm commenting responsibly on that, so I'm just going to avoid that.
All right.
question entirely.
Okay, cool. That's reasonable.
Yeah. They do say konnichiwa. I'm aware of that.
I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation.
Oh, konnichiwa.
That's definitely not.
Okay. Well, I'll just leave that where it is. How about that?
All right, is Batiste going to limp again?
I mean, I think it's time to stop with this limping. It's not working out.
Nah, he
Dude,
decides
just
not.
play differently.
Aaron's
Action
going to
Aaron.
raise.
But he's not gonna limp. Digital Dan in one of these spots with just a mediocre hand. It's 3-better fold. He lets it go.
Terminator with a mediocre hand will not be folding. Mediocre is good.
I mean, when Action Aaron opens, apparently so. Action Aaron dominated by both players here.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't.
Tim's suited at least.
Tim,
Whatever you want to think.
well, Action Aaron's probably gonna win anyway.
Yeah, I imagine he will. I don't see anybody doing anything, although we have seen Terminator do some stuff in the past, but
Yeah,
not
but-
this time.
You had it?
Time to show it.
Oh, I did have it.
I did have it, he says. Oh, maybe he actually raised blind and didn't tell anyone.
That's quite possible.
Yeah.
That's definitely in the Action Aaron arsenal.
I mean, is it going to be much worse than not raising blind for him? I mean, he plays some less hands, but he's going to play most of his hands that way
Yeah.
anyway, right?
That's true.
It's not that different, which makes him both wonderful and difficult to play against.
Certainly. And it's fun when he shows.
The infinite range of Action Aaron.
Oh, Dan's bored.
Wow. What is happening? Why didn't you play the King 4? You could have just 3-bet the King 4 suited last hand.
With pair.
We know Dan watches these, so.
Yeah.
What's up, Dan? What you doing?
Yeah, feel free to write in the comments, buddy. Wonka definitely going to play this one. This is a pretty good candidate for a 3-bet, although I guess with a digital Dan raise, you could decide to just flat as well.
It's on the button. I think it's good enough for a 3-bet, but I don't mind a flat.
Yeah. It's fine.
Tim's in there with a 9-7. Batiste will not be folding this
Yeah,
hand.
he's forced to call. Doesn't like it.
We've got everybody but Action Aaron in the pot. Has that ever happened? It seems impossible.
It seems hard to imagine that.
It's going to be hard to decipher who's winning once the flop comes out. Let's try our best. We've got a monster flop for Matt, it looks like. He's got
Yes.
a gut shot, a flush draw, and middle pair.
Him and Tim have the same strength hand right now, but of course Matt has all the equity. It checks through, and Wonka just zooms ahead.
Rages ahead.
Wow. So let's see how Matt decides to play this.
Now he's going to bet it
Weird.
when the ace comes. I don't know if I like that.
Nope.
Often with this big of a field of players, at least one player has an ace, and they will not be folding an ace.
Yep.
With a hand like this, we need fold equity if we're going to bet.
I mean, we can bet to build the pot also.
We can, but I
mean, you can just check call.
There's only one card to come, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. But we do have reasonable equity against anything, pretty much, except even against a set, we're doing okay.
If we were going to bet, I would have liked to bet on the flop once the original raiser had already checked.
I agree. I definitely agree that that's even better. And that's
a scare card. It's going to go check pretty much every time, right?
I don't know. Once Matt checks, Wonka might believe that Matt has a worse ace.
Yeah, Matt has a lot of worse aces in his range.
I think Wonka's supposed to value bet this.
I think you're right.
He's going to, and I can't imagine Matt's going to find a call, though.
No, I don't think so.
What is it? What does Wonka have? Queen Jack?
It looks like Wonka has a 10 or an ace.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't get any value there. Although I think he might have gotten paid off by ace 7 or something like that.
Yeah. Ace 7 absolutely could call there.
So that's a good value bet, even though it didn't work out.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the powers of being positioned. Like, you get to get paid off by the bad ace when you're in position. Out of position, you have to check to that guy because he can have a 10.
You know why they call him Digital Dan?
I do not.
Because he opens 5-4 offsuit when he's bored.
Oh, look at you. Really going a different direction
I
with
wanna,
that, huh?
You gotta throw a zig in there sometimes when you're always zagging, you know?
I think it's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Matt with a real hand just folds the ace-9 off. Interesting. He's been opening worse hands a lot, but I guess he feels like the dynamic has changed a little bit or something.
Tim has called the button with 10-4 suited, it looks like.
Tim wants to get involved, and this is a nice opportunity.
Batiste just calls with the king-queen, which is normal.
It is, but when Terminator raises and you get the call from Tim, you could put in a big 3-bet here.
You could.
You're usually ahead. Not this time, though.
Now we've got him getting outflopped by both of his opponents. Batiste I'm talking about here. Terminator with top pair, betting. Tim, I don't think can fold against Terminator once he flops a 10.
Well, it's also on the button with the backdoor hearts. Seems pretty straightforward. Batiste has got a decision right here, right now. He's got the backdoor diamonds and the gutter. It's only 40 to call. I think he's supposed to call.
And he's got a king and a queen on his face.
That, too. Yes. I was trying to understand that for a second.
He's got his name on his face, too.
It's more his head than his face.
It's a weird tattoo.
Oh, and Batiste
my
makes
goodness.
the nuts.
How do you get paid here?
Wow.
Checking is one way.
Let's see if Terminator fires again. Looks like he's going to.
He's doing some math or something. I saw him moving his mouth around there.
It's going to be hard to get paid, though.
Tim's got to fold. The question for Batiste is check, raise, or call.
Really hard to get paid if you check raise against Terminator here. You need him to have aces up. Terminator's definitely going to fold this hand if he gets check raise. I strongly believe it.
I think if we call, we can rep diamond draws by doing that.
We can donk the river. We call and donk the river.
I think that's a better line than raising here. But Terminator could have 2 pair here, and we could be missing out on massive value by not raising.
Set also, and we just get it all in right now.
There's reasonable arguments for both.
I think we're probably supposed to raise because we're out of position, ultimately.
Right, donking looks weird. I understand that for sure. And it looks like Batiste is agreeing with you here.
Yeah.
Relatively big raise. I think that was over 300. 330.
And I just cannot imagine Terminator's going to stick around.
He's counting out the chips, but I think, he can't beat anything. I mean, Batiste maybe could have King Jack or Queen Jack of diamonds. Maybe a hand like that the Terminator can beat, but usually Batiste is just going to call with those hands.
Look at that. And this is the problem. This is the problem actually with calling on the flop even, is the implied odds actually aren't there.
Well, they kind of are. It's not, they aren't there against Terminator's hand in that instance.
Right.
But Terminator sometimes has 2 pair or a set.
Yeah.
So in those moments, I think that Batiste made the right play.
That's
you know?
I think the check raise makes a lot of sense on the turn. I agree with that. But it does. This is one of the dangers of drawing to these things, where like Terminator has a pretty wide range a lot of the time there. You know,
right?
Like, his strong value, sure, we're doing great against, but how often does he really have that? I don't know.
I don't know either. But I don't really think Batiste made any mistakes in the hand.
No.
It just didn't work out because of Terminator's hand.
I think you're supposed to call $40. It was so cheap on the flop.
Yeah.
I really do. But I'm saying this is one of the pitfalls of making the speculative calls. Is if you don't get paid, you know, it's not as good as it seems like it can be. Here's a real hand for Tim.
There it is.
And he's going to 3-bet the tiny open of Terminator, which I like. I like the sizing too, 75.
He's got Terminator in jail.
Oh my goodness, Terminator does not want to fold. Now, all the players know the session is coming to a close soon. That may affect their VPIPs pre-flop.
Works for me, buddy.
That's not a card that Tim wanted to see on the flop there.
Terminator has a gut shot. And let's see if Tim checks it back.
I think Terminator might have check raised.
Oh my goodness!
And Tim has the open ender.
Tim cannot fold on this turn. It's definitely time to bet here if you're the Terminator after it goes check check.
Although you'd be concerned that Tim has a lot of one-pair hands that he can't call with because he checked back on the ace-high flop.
But
so
we're
quickly.
Terminator, man. Our reputation is so bad.
Right.
Our
And
image is so weak.
Tim is
we
forced to
have
call. He's forced to call with the open under the pair, and
Terminator showed up with this 5-4 hand just like a half an hour ago against Wonka, right?
Right.
I mean, so I think you can't fold 9 so quickly and easily. I mean, you couldn't anyway because you were open.
Now on the river, we can consider folding. The 6 is not a great card for us, but I guess we know Terminator's reputation, and we just quickly put the chips in.
It's completely reasonable to go call there with 2 9s. I got to tell you, completely
I think so too.
reasonable. Especially when the 6 pairs, because now you're like, what's he betting when I called the 6 and the 6 pairs? He's got a 6 himself. He's not going to bet a 7 or an 8 again.
Nope.
Is he going to bet an ace? I'm not sure. Actually, he probably would.
He would.
Knowing what
That's
we know
a
about
problem.
him. He might bet an ace. But that's kind of it, right? An ace, trip 6s, and I don't know, full houses, and as it turns out, straights. There's just not that much there.
Yeah.
I think you're supposed to call.
I think so too. And hey,
It's a
we
blind
finally got a
raise.
blind raise from Terminator. I've been missing that.
Yeah. Of course, if you're newer to the game and the videos, you are not allowed to straddle in Portland. So instead, because we're in Portland, Oregon, said you do a blind raise if you want to do it. Not many people choose to, but the Terminator often does, and he always has a good hand when he does. It's amazing.
We're going to see a lot of cheese, except for Terminator's hand going to the flop. That's what they used to say. Cheese. I don't know why. Cheese is good. I like cheese. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
No,
a
I know
nice
exactly
hearty
what you're
blue
saying.
cheese.
Everyone loves that. Terminator with the best hand.
We got a gut shot for Batiste and a gut shot for Digital Dan.
But Terminator's going to bet it, and
Batiste hasn't been known to call with gut shots, as he did a couple hands ago, and here he goes doing it again. He's trying those implied odds again
I
against
think
Terminator.
Batiste is really just wants to win some pots, man, because I don't know about that. I'm not sure if that call is going to make him money in the long run.
That's not a fair characterization because you did agree he played the king-queen correctly.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm talking about this call.
Okay, this call.
Goes check on the turn, though, and now Batiste has got a chance to bluff this.
I don't know if it's going to work against Terminator, though.
It's a tough spot. Terminator might be giving up, but he might be giving up with a slightly better hand. King High does. King High's pretty good, though. It looks like he's going to just tap the table.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
he,
probably
he was
correct.
just playing for the implied odds, and it didn't work out.
It was cheap. It was fine, I guess. I mean, he paid $50 on the flop to try and slam a queen and or a king, I guess, hoping the king is good.
I got a friend from out of town that just
You know why they call him Digital Dan, by the way?
I do, but you can tell me anyway.
Yeah, you know that Olivia Newton-John song, Let's Get Physical? He
Yeah.
originally, when he first heard it, thought it was Let's Get Digital. Digital, I want to get digital. And he always sang it that way, and so he
Right.
got the nickname Digital Dan.
Right, and his friends, they thought it was funny, so they didn't tell him
Yeah.
the truth for 6 or
Oh,
7 years.
Yeah. There was a really embarrassing moment, in college for him.
Right, and they called him Digital Dan behind his back, and once he found out they were calling him that, at first he was upset, but then he kind of embraced it.
He owned it. And,
yeah.
he took it back.
Right.
You're never
Batiste is going to raise to 30 with Jack 6.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this guy's on tilt.
I think he just knows the session's coming to an end. He wants to
Okay.
get a few pots in there.
Yeah, maybe.
Matt calls the 7-5 suited. It looks like we said he folded, but he did not. Because he's got cards in front of him there.
Yeah, and Terminator does not.
And I'm not sure if Batiste actually raised Jack 6 either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to take a look.
Oh, is he not in the hand?
I think he might not be. I think we
Okay.
might have to.
He
Yeah,
is
he's
not.
not.
Okay,
He
that's-
did not play the Jack 6.
Well, great. Look at you defending him with, he just wants to get some pots in there. Glad to hear it.
But he would have flopped what would be the nut flush draw for the hand. With the Jack of Hearts.
And would have made the best hand.
I think we have heads up action. I think
Yeah.
we have Dan against Aaron, and nobody has a heart. So it looks like Aaron's just going to get to win on a check most likely. This pot got kind of big.
Will somebody bet for value or as a bluff? Looks like Aaron's going to bet. This has to be a bluff if he bets, right?
Also, the graphic is wrong about Aaron's chip stack. It says he has 400, but
Oh,
I can
yeah.
clearly see he has more than that in front of him.
Digital Dan checks it right back and is going to take the loss. Just barely.
Got pipped, as they say.
That is what they say.
got one.
Got pipped.
Got pipped?
Pippy Longstocking. That's what you can say if you want to be cool at
Yeah.
the poker table. You say, I got Pippy Longstocking there.
You can say that,
should do that, guys.
anytime you want. It doesn't have to be in relation to anything.
That's right. It's way cooler.
If there's like a cocktail server who comes around,
Yeah.
ask for Pippi Longstocking, everybody at the table will be like, that guy gets it.
Yeah. That guy's cool. Yeah. You don't like your pancakes? I got Pippi Longstockings over there.
Right, of course. Tim's going to limp the ace deuce suited under the gun. Batiste has a real hand. He's going to make it 30.
Now, this is a hand I can get behind raising to 30.
Well, he didn't raise the jack 6.
I know.
We know.
I know.
Matt's going to call the 7-8. He wants some action before the session ends.
Yeah, I guess you're right. People are feeling the end of the session, and everyone except Wonka, who never wants action. He's the nittiest of the nitty, as they like to say.
Batiste likes to say that, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, he did nit roll the heck out of Terminator last session with that queen's hand, I would say.
We got Batiste flopping the best here with the ace. Yeah. Wonka's got middle pair. Tim has top pair. Lowest kicker. I believe Batiste is going to get some action from Tim.
Wonka folds comfortably. Such a pro. So easy for him.
He also does like to lock it up at the end of the session. We know that.
Yeah.
Will Batiste go for 3 streets?
I think he's supposed to. He does not.
I think 2 streets is kind of what you're supposed to. Ooh, he
should
have gone for 3 streets.
Turns out he would have gotten 3 streets.
I think Tim's going to bet here. And Batiste is probably just going to call unless the sizing is really small.
It's reasonable. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see the sizing. But if he bets... I mean, it looks like Batiste often has kings here, right?
Right, and I think actually Batiste is good enough that he might raise here.
I would expect 100 into 235 with ace-jack on this board based on the action. I think you have to
You wouldn't expect in a traditional sense to be able to get paid by worse, but I think Batiste knows he has the best hand, understands the situation very well, and yeah, he is going to raise. That's a great raise. Not everybody is capable of that.
And I think Tim is probably going to end up finding a call. Let's find out.
I love this play by Batiste. A lot of players aren't going to make this play.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty solid play, and kind of have to do it.
Now, Tim's in a tough spot here.
He blocks a lot of stuff. What is Batiste supposed to have that he check back the turn and then raises the river? Problem is we can't beat any aces.
Right, but we have to believe Batiste is capable of raising just trips here.
Yeah, but even if he has trips, we're chopping at best.
Oh, I know.
So that sucks.
I know. What I'm saying is Tim might be thinking it's unlikely for somebody to raise worse than a full house here.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
So
I don't think he's going to think that. I think if Batiste had ace king or ace jack, the problem is we would think, why didn't he bet the turn?
And yeah, Tim makes the call, and
Batiste gets his 3 streets of value.
Batiste's got a lot of value there. He made a pretty big raise on the river. He 4x Tim's bet.
Yeah, that worked out just fine for Batiste.
That's a nice hand.
It's a tough spot for Tim. I mean, the story doesn't make a huge amount of sense.
Obviously, we're bluff catching here, obviously.
No question about it. But what is he supposed to have?
King Jack? I don't know.
It's hard to come up with value.
It's possible that Batiste could be accidentally valuing himself with 2 kings there, thinking Tim has a queen a lot of... No, hear me out.
Okay.
Thinking Tim has a queen a lot of the time based on sizing on the river. Tim just called the flop. The ace paired.
You would never think you're going to get called when you raise.
I mean, I think Tim's going to call with a queen as frequently as he's going to call with an ace.
Trip aces?
Yeah.
I disagree strongly.
They should be about the same thing. The only difference...
You block trip aces when you have an ace.
That's true. That's true.
Big deal. All right, well, poker guys in a little fight there, guys.
I think sometimes Batiste might raise kings there if he thinks Tim has a queen based on sizing.
I just want to say to the viewers, the reason why we're fighting is it's your fault.
The viewers' fault?
Yeah, it's their fault.
It's because we don't love you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we got some slow-mo.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
And
everyone's in this hand.
The familia pot, as they say in Italy.
Almost everyone has a reasonable hand here as well. What do we got here?
Wonka flop top pair. I think that's mostly it.
Tim has a second pair, and it checks all the way through.
And there's the ace.
Bingo, bango, bongo. Batiste takes the lead.
Nicely said. And Aaron's going to bet his ace. It's likely to end in a chop. Oh, Dan has a pretty big hand here, actually.
Oh, wow.
Pair and a flush draw. Didn't even see that one.
Me either. Yeah, that was a pretty huge turn card for Digital Dan.
Wonka has a gut shot with his king, but it's not that good of a spot. He's going to let it go.
Also 2 spades on the board. Batiste now has an interesting decision with the ace. Action Aaron bet. He doesn't have to have you beat. Dan only called. He doesn't have to have you beat.
I like the fold. I think it's probably a profitable fold over time, even though he was wrong this time.
Yeah, I agree.
And nobody's going to get there. It looks like it would have ended up as a chop between Aaron and Batiste.
Honestly, that would make me feel better as Batiste once I saw the hands. Like, I'd only get half the pot anyway, and I'd have to make the call on the river. It wouldn't be great.
And Aaron's just going to win this pot. I don't think Dan's going to call.
I don't see how he can call here. I mean, it's action Aaron, but I don't see how he can call here.
You can put Aaron on 8-10 of spades, I guess, if you really want to, but
sure,
probably not the right thing to do. I don't know if Aaron should be betting that river with the very weak ace there. I don't know what he's expecting to get called by.
I think he's betting his reputation as opposed to this.
Hoping Dan calls king queen or something like that.
Yeah, which is not impossible.
Not impossible, but
People are gonna
it's
make-
optimistic.
If you're Aaron or the Terminator, though, you have to make thinner value bets, I think.
Right, if
on
you're
the
going to
river.
bluff so much.
Yeah, you have to have more value than other people might show up with, like Wonka. Wonka doesn't have to show up with as much value because he's not bluffing all the time. So I think that's probably a profitable bet for Action Aaron, even though I'll admit it's super thin.
It's quite thin. And here he goes. I don't think he looked. I don't think he
I
looked.
hope not. I hope not.
I just figured I didn't want to hold up the game. So
Yeah, he just said he didn't want to hold up the game.
So we're just going to call.
Just throw $5 in there as he's screwing up the chips. Wonka's.
Ooh, this is a little loose
Look
for
at
Wonka.
this.
I mean, I
This
think
guy never
most
does
people would
anything.
play this against Terminator's cutoff open, but Wonka is not one of those people.
No, he isn't. He'd usually wait for at least, honestly, Jack 8 suited. I would have guessed would be his
Is
cutoff.
he chasing one more pot here before the end of the session?
I think he likes having Terminator Action Aaron in the hand, and he likes being on the button, and he's got almost a reasonable hand,
he flops best.
but it's going to be hard to win.
Yeah. I mean, he has no back doors here.
I mean, I expect Randy is going to... Oh, he does not continue. Wonka's got an interesting decision here. Yeah.
He's
going to
gonna
find
bet
out
it.
where he is.
I don't mind that bet. Aces are not frequent in this crowd, the way the hand played out so far. And once Terminator checks, it's almost certain he doesn't have an ace. Might as well protect with the 7.
I mean, I agree completely. Completely. There's just a lot of bad cards for you that's going to improve people or look like it improves them.
you had kings?
Everyone checks. If someone has an ace, they're going to call, and you're going to find out. You can check the turn and figure it out on the river.
Yep.
I think that's fine. Take down
Kings
that
with the
pot.
king of spades. Bluff. Not
Thanks for repeating.
Digital Dan. I know it's near the end, but don't think he's going to play this under the gun. Yeah, he wants to.
He's preparing for his digital hibernation that he goes into between poker times. He goes into his little microchip cell and becomes a digital entity, and you know
Is that what happened?
he rests. He rests in digital form.
I don't know what any of that meant.
What I'm
I
saying
struggled- I
is
struggled with that one.
it's extreme effort for him to become corporeal.
Oh, okay. So maybe that struggle to fold was not really about the fold or the cards. It was about just trying to keep his body
Keep it together.
physical.
He's
Yeah.
close to the end of his battery life.
Sure. That makes perfect sense.
Yep, it does. And Terminator's going to bet middle pair here.
Batiste definitely not going to fold his open ender.
I don't see that happening. I see a raise as a potential thing that could happen, but he's just going to call, it looks like.
Yeah, the ace high board makes sense to me to call.
No, it's the last hand.
Tim also calls with bottom pair.
It is Terminator.
That card does not help anybody.
Randy, the Terminator, still has the best hand.
But
And we're going to check through. Batiste gets a free card, does not get there. Terminator Super gets there.
let's see if Batiste. This is not the worst time to take a shot after it just checked through on the turn. Batiste can rep. Well, he can rep the ace. It's harder to rep the 10. The other guys can have a 10.
You gotta go somewhere or something?
Batiste is considering. I don't know what he's considering. Looks like he's talking to the dealer, Brittany.
Unclear, but he definitely is.
You're a terrible
Seems
liar.
like he doesn't care about the hand.
Well, this is the last hand of this session of Poker Time, so maybe he's just trying to get all the juice out of the orange, man.
Yeah.
And I don't think Terminator's going to get any action for the last hand, although it is the last hand, so Tim might decide maybe I can get $100 more bucks here by calling.
I mean, you know, not just 100. There's 300 in the pot.
Yeah.
He throws 100 in there, and he's right. He will not be. He would pick up 300 bucks. Not so bad. Problem is he's got Batiste behind him, and he has a weak hand. And
Makes the right fold.
That's
Batiste is
a
going
good
to fold, I'm pretty sure.
Batiste is like contemplating a raise maybe for a second, but and Terminator shows that, as always, he's got it.
As always. That's the last hand of this session of Poker Time. We'll see you guys later for the next session, a new session of Poker Time.
Yeah, get ready for it.